The podcast you are about to listen to is not a medical podcast, nor is it designed to diagnose a condition. While there are medical experts on the show, any questions regarding medical care or concern should be directed to a primary care physician.
The team at Imvax is dedicated to delivering new, personalized immunotherapy approaches to improve outcomes for people living with glioblastoma and other solid tumors. Leveraging decades of validated research and technologies, Imvax's unique platform is designed to capture a tumor's full antigen signature and use it to stimulate a patient's immune system against remaining tumor cells. Imvax, advancing a new approach to personalized cancer immunotherapy. Hey, it's your friend Shannon Trapphagen, and welcome to the Game on Glio podcast. Here we tell the stories of brain cancer and tumor warriors, clinicians, medical experts, and those in the grief and loss community. Thanks to all of you for making our podcast one of the most popular podcasts globally. If you enjoy our show, please consider writing a review. Also share us with a friend and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and our website.
This season of the Game on Glio podcast is sponsored by GT MedTech and GammaTile Therapy. Learn more at gtmedtech.com. Season 4 is also sponsored by Imvax, personalized whole tumor-derived immunotherapy. Learn more at imvax.com. This episode is brought to you by Mimivax LLC. Learn more at mimivax.com. And by the Alliance Advisory Group. Learn more at allianceadvisorygroup.com.
I truly believe that the journeys we must take in this life are meant to transform us, our hearts, our souls, our minds. We're meant to find hope and inspiration through each lesson that's given us, each challenge that faces us, or each loss that we endure. But I also feel that through whatever life gives us, we find grace, encouragement, comfort, and personal transformation. Our guest today, Tara, hails from Northern Ireland, and her story is one of hope, miracles, and true grit. Tara was diagnosed with glioblastoma. However, the miracle lies in her story, and her story is just one of many. She was diagnosed nearly 5 years ago. Today, Tara is resilient, strong, has no recurrence, and living an impactful life. Her story reminds us that while some are taken from this disease, so many others are spared. And while we don't know why that is, the hope lies in the fact that it's possible. It's possible to live through hardship like this, and not just to live, but to thrive in the face of whatever life throws our way. Cancer doesn't need to be scary, yet we all know that when those words are uttered, we shiver and shake, because it forces us to become familiar with the unknown, to no longer have control over a life we never truly had control over. Life is meant to be lived in moments, not in totality or futuristic thinking, but the moments that we're given each and every day. Tara lives in those moments and has transformed her life in the most beautiful ways. Her story reminds us that this life, in all its good and bad times, is a gift. It can transform us from the inside out when we let go and walk slowly through the moments of each day. We sit down with her.
The podcast you are about to listen to is not a medical podcast, nor is it designed to diagnose a condition. While there are medical experts on the show, any questions regarding medical care or concern should be directed to a primary care physician.
The team at Imvax is dedicated to delivering new, personalized immunotherapy approaches to improve outcomes for people living with glioblastoma and other solid tumors. Leveraging decades of validated research and technologies, Imvax's unique platform is designed to capture a tumor's full antigen signature and use it to stimulate a patient's immune system against remaining tumor cells. Imvax, advancing a new approach to personalized cancer immunotherapy. Hey, it's your friend Shannon Trapphagen, and welcome to the Game on Glio podcast. Here we tell the stories of brain cancer and tumor warriors, clinicians, medical experts, and those in the grief and loss community. Thanks to all of you for making our podcast one of the most popular podcasts globally. If you enjoy our show, please consider writing a review. Also share us with a friend and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and our website.
This season of the Game on Glio podcast is sponsored by GT MedTech and GammaTile Therapy. Learn more at gtmedtech.com. Season 4 is also sponsored by Imvax, personalized whole tumor-derived immunotherapy. Learn more at imvax.com. This episode is brought to you by Mimivax LLC. Learn more at mimivax.com. And by the Alliance Advisory Group. Learn more at allianceadvisorygroup.com.
I truly believe that the journeys we must take in this life are meant to transform us, our hearts, our souls, our minds. We're meant to find hope and inspiration through each lesson that's given us, each challenge that faces us, or each loss that we endure. But I also feel that through whatever life gives us, we find grace, encouragement, comfort, and personal transformation. Our guest today, Tara, hails from Northern Ireland, and her story is one of hope, miracles, and true grit. Tara was diagnosed with glioblastoma. However, the miracle lies in her story, and her story is just one of many. She was diagnosed nearly 5 years ago. Today, Tara is resilient, strong, has no recurrence, and living an impactful life. Her story reminds us that while some are taken from this disease, so many others are spared. And while we don't know why that is, the hope lies in the fact that it's possible. It's possible to live through hardship like this, and not just to live, but to thrive in the face of whatever life throws our way. Cancer doesn't need to be scary, yet we all know that when those words are uttered, we shiver and shake, because it forces us to become familiar with the unknown, to no longer have control over a life we never truly had control over. Life is meant to be lived in moments, not in totality or futuristic thinking, but the moments that we're given each and every day. Tara lives in those moments and has transformed her life in the most beautiful ways. Her story reminds us that this life, in all its good and bad times, is a gift. It can transform us from the inside out when we let go and walk slowly through the moments of each day. We sit down with her and her partner Stephen after a brief word from one of our sponsors.
Our time is precious, especially when you or your loved one is diagnosed with a brain tumor or the cancer has spread to the brain. That is why GammaTile is here, the only FDA-cleared bioabsorbable implant specifically designed for the brain that delivers immediate radiation at the time of brain tumor removal. No more waiting to start radiation. No more of your precious time spent going to outpatient radiation treatments. With GammaTile, focus on what truly matters: your recovery, your strength, and cherished moments with loved ones. Discover GammaTile centers near you and find hope from inspiring patient stories at GammaTile.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for being here and joining us on the Game on Glio podcast. I want to bring on two very special guests right now. My first guest is Tara McCaughan, and I'm going to screw up her last name. She knows. And her partner, Stephen O'Brien. Tara and Stephen are both from Ireland. Tara is trained in holistic healing modalities, and she is the owner of her social media and wellness company, Life Behind the Rainbow. As a GBM survivor, Tara found herself flying back from a vacation in Mexico in 2020 with her partner, Stephen, when physical ailments started causing concern. Due to a family history of multiple sclerosis, Tara assumed that she was beginning to present with these symptoms. However, after an 18-month wait for an MRI, Ireland is not an easy place to get immediate MRIs, and we will discuss this. She finally had her MRI in March of 2020, and the MRI actually gave her a shock diagnosis: brain cancer. 4 years later, Tara is a testament to wellness, thriving, and fighting under difficult circumstances. Tara and Stephen, welcome to the show.
Hello. Lovely to be here. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Let's dive right in. So, for everybody listening, as I said before, Tara and Stephen both live in Ireland. It's interesting because Tara and I actually connected when she found out that I was in Ireland traveling. After having shared my story, I was doing some work over in Ireland. I was down in Glengarriff. Tara and I connected on social media towards the tail end of my trip, and she asked if I was still in Ireland. And at that time, I was just starting to head back. She then disclosed her story and her journey, and we have been talking and have become friends ever since. So, Tara, I would love to share with our listeners and our viewers your journey, because you're 4 years out, which is amazing. I mean, it is such an amazing gift. Let's talk about this a little bit. So you were first diagnosed back in March of 2020. That's when you found out.
Literally, the lockdowns and everything had only just came into place. I mean, I think I made it in for an MRI by the skin of my teeth. I think I was probably one of the very, very last, that got in for routine kind of MRIs. And like you said in the intro there, I just did presume that I had MS. I was literally just waiting for them to just say, yep, okay, so we can see that it is MS now. We need to go do a lumbar puncture and we'll get you on meds for MS. Like, honestly, that's what I thought. But the lockdown had just started into the hospital for the MRI with all the masks and the protocols, already started. And thank goodness, because I think even as soon as those doing the scan, I think they must have seen it straight away. The doctors would say that it was the size of a tangerine.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that what they say, Stephen?
Why you call it a golf ball?
Well, he said, yeah, so Stephen would say a golf ball. I know one of the doctors had said a tangerine. So they actually came into the room and were like, oh, we just need to put the dye in your arm because, we're going to have to do some extra tests. And obviously I was told, oh, this might be about 30 minutes or so. I was in there for an hour and a half. Well over an hour. So obviously they could see, but they weren't going to tell me what they could see. And it was only about 2 or 3 days later, which usually that would take, over a month till you actually get your MRI results. But it was about 2 or 3 days later, I got a phone call from my neurologist that knew my family history with my mom and stuff with her MS. And she was like, Tara, we've already sat around table discussing you, this is really serious. You need to come in now, really, really soon for another MRI, and we'll be thinking about surgery and treatment really soon after. So that was all. It was so fast.
Wow.
We just had no time to even process what was really going on. I got that phone call and come off the phone and went down to my mom and dad and kind of laughed with, I think, in shock. I remember laughing and being like, so it's not MS, it's a brain tumor, and actually they think it could be cancerous. Nervous laugh.
Yeah.
And yeah, my parents just broke down, just started crying, and were like, what do we do? What do we do? It was just the biggest shock ever.
Wow.
Ever.
So 2 or 3 days later, they're telling you have to have surgery. So then you had surgery pretty imminently after that. What was the official diagnosis? It's glioblastoma.
Yeah, so they weren't able to tell me that until they did the surgery and sent it off to London for research, and they were able to tell me then. But they were pretty sure from even I had to go for a second MRI the same week, just to go up to Belfast to the really good hospitals, with really, really, I suppose, the best technology or whatever. I have that image. I have it like stored, on my phone, and I've shared it online and stuff. But you can actually see where there's the dark matter growing inside the big circle tumor. So they were able to see that within, a few days, like within that same week, really, it was growing aggressively. And like that's what you can see in the little dark matter on the scan. So it was so quick, and we just had to like kind of get rushed through everything.
We don't waste time.
I don't even think they felt like they could get the time to even explain everything to me, or even tell me all the steps of the treatment and stuff. It was just probably like, we'll tell you as and when it's coming. Which I didn't really like. I think as somebody that is quite educated and had been a teacher and stuff in the past, like I would have wanted to know it all at the start and be prepared. But like, I guess that's just the way they do it it's just probably standard. But yeah, I just felt like my life wasn't my own. I didn't have my own choices. I was told I would get the Gold Star treatment, which had originated over in America. As far as I know, it's still the Gold Star, and that's, all that they're I don't know of any other options or choices. Like I was just told you'll have to do surgery, then we'll do radiotherapy, and then we'll do chemotherapy. And that was all I knew.
It's interesting that they call it Gold Star. It's the only treatment really to offer for glioblastoma. And I struggle with saying those words because it's not enough.
No.
That the standard of care, we call it standard of care here in the US, and it is just not enough. So we have been seeing a surge and a push over the last 5 years, even more immediately the last 3 years, to provide even more options and better treatments so that patients have the option to say, we're going to try this clinical trial, or this vaccine looks like it's working, or there's this immunotherapy that's breaking the blood-brain barrier, and it's giving patients the longevity that they really deserve. It's interesting, that is pretty much what's being offered in many countries. There are some third world countries where even the standard of care, that Gold Star care, is not an option for many. And that breaks my heart.
Yeah.
So you're going through all this, and I have to jump back a little bit because your partner, Stephen, is with us. And at that time, Stephen, in 2020, you guys had just gotten together, like a year and a half earlier?
Not even. It was only like 6 months, really.
Oh, okay. 6 months. There we go.
Even worse.
So you guys are together 6 months, and your poor girlfriend is getting thrust into this new reality of hers. What was going through your mind? And I mean, I have to, and I say this every time we have a partner like you, I have not met many, to be able to say that I love this person and, we haven't been together that long, but I'm sticking with this. I'm sticking with her because she means that much to me, or he means that much to me, and I'm weathering this storm with you. That speaks volumes to the type of person that you are. So I tip my hat to you. It is just the most amazing gift. But what was going through your mind? I mean, what were you thinking when you found out that this was going to be the new reality for her?
I suppose I didn't really know at the time. Like, I was living in Canada just over 2 years. You can get a 2-year visa through your sort of Irish or UK passport, whatever you have. And I just finished my 2 years, and had an application for an additional year. So that was my plan to stay on. Me and Tara, I'd actually bought a sort of big truck at the time. Me and Tara were planning to do a road trip across Canada that summer. And Tara was going home for like 3 weeks for her mum's 50th birthday. And that's when she had her MRI scan. I knew she was going for the scan, but I didn't really know much of the medical history or anything behind it, so I wasn't really expecting much. And then I remember I was driving around to work one day, and I got the text from Tara just to give me a call. It was about the scan, and they found like a lump. But then at that stage, I didn't really know the severity of it, or like if it was even like
cancerous.
Yeah, well, like cancerous tumor. Yeah.
I
thought it might have been a matter of just getting surgery, and yeah, that was it. Recovery after that. But at that stage, because we'd planned to do it in the summer, it wasn't even a question really. I just decided there and then I was going to come home and I'd be there during the surgery and stuff. And yeah, that was sort of it. It wasn't a tough choice at all for me. That was just the way I was thinking at the time. And I came home like a week later, I think. Even leading up to the surgery, like we weren't told much. The surgery happened and then she recovered for the few days after. There was that meeting a week or 2 weeks after the surgery where they told us it was glioblastoma.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my degree in science, so I have a little bit of an understanding about cancers and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember the night before that meeting, I was like on the laptop, I was sort of researching different types of brain tumors.
Oh.
And I was writing down like astrocytoma, and I can't remember all the other ones, what they're called. But then I got to glioblastoma, and I just stopped writing at that stage because I knew, like, I just thought, oh, well, there's no point writing this down because it's like worst case scenario. So there's no point even thinking about this because then it's just being too negative. And then when I heard the doctor say it the next day, that was just a massive shock. And then I knew that it was going to be a tough time the next year or so, which it really was.
We literally had cars. We lived, we had places we lived and paid rent to over there. Like, we had literally just started this whole new life over there. It was so crazy. Like, you just can't even, like, this was, remember, lockdown.
Yeah.
We weren't able to communicate this with really like people other than over Zoom and stuff. It was so mad. Like, we had to get our friends to gather up our stuff and like keep it safe for us for as long as we could. And you know what else about that Stephen hasn't said is, yeah, he had all these notes and we had about 2 pages of questions. Like, just, I wanted to know every single thing. Like, yes, I had the surgery, but I suppose with the pain meds and stuff that I was on, I was cuckoo. I was literally like mad. I swear I had all this crazy energy. I couldn't sleep because it was, that's what they do. Like, the steroids just make you wired to the moon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had all these questions written out, and I had all these like, right, when can I fly again? When can we travel? When can we have children? Like, everything. And as soon as, because like what Stephen just said there about he didn't even want to think about it being glioblastoma, whenever the doctor said that, he dropped our notepad that had our questions on the floor and just like, that was it. Where I was like, obviously still, I think, in shock and probably all on my meds and whatever. I just like grabbed it up off the floor and was like, sorry about him, to the surgeon, who then was looking back at me like, you're not getting it, Tara, like, and I was like, oh, sorry, right, okay, let's see, when can we get on to back to our life? Like, no, we have just met, like, this is not happening, like, this is not me,
To paint that kind of picture, it speaks volumes because you want to get back to the life that it's all so to have somebody all of a sudden sit there and say to you, no, you don't understand, this is going to change everything in your life indefinitely.
Forever.
Yeah, it's forever. And I don't think that sinks in, that it just doesn't sink in, not even in the first couple of weeks. It just doesn't sink in. And I remember, as you guys are describing this, Mike and I going through a very similar situation. They actually told us before he even did the surgery that based on what we're seeing in the MRIs, based on the way that it looks and where it's located, we're pretty confident it's glioblastoma, but we won't know till we go in. I had never heard the term, and ironically, so Mike was diagnosed in 2019. I don't know what it is with those years, but I've had so many guests on the show that were either diagnosed around the same time that Mike was in the spring and summer of 2019 or diagnosed in 2020. And I don't know if it's just, was there something in the air or the environment in those 2 years? There's a lot of saturation with diagnosis at that time frame. And I remember having the same thought, like all I kept thinking was, what the heck is glioblastoma? What are you talking about? Like, wait a second, let's back up. When I finally realized Mike was in the same position, he was on all kinds of meds. The steroids were just starting to kick in. He had the surgery, and we're trying to figure out how can we keep things as normal as possible while also still going through all this. And for us, we were supposed to be bringing home a baby in a matter of weeks at that point. Like, we had a baby coming into our household. We were going to be a family. We were going to be parents. So I was kind of in the same position as Stephen, where I was like, I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that this may all go away. Mm-hmm. We're going to lose all this. The reality is just, it takes a while to sink in. And I think for the caregivers who weren't on meds and, like, you're so amped up, like Mike was the same way. He was raring to go. He was like, okay, what do we got to do? What questions do I need to ask? Are there any clinical trials that we can be looking into? What are next steps? And I was the one with the notepad sitting there saying, okay, I'm going to have to rein this in a little bit because I don't think life is ever going to be normal for us again.
Mm-hmm.
So to picture that for you guys, you're dealing with all of this, you're on the meds, you had the surgery, you're starting treatment, and you had a difficult road. I mean, you had a really difficult road to recovery. Is that correct?
Let me just jump in there to tell you about what they were like, right, you need to start the treatment ASAP. Like your tumor is quite aggressive. Like we could see that from the most recent images. I was like, no, I am not having anything done to my body that, screams the word cancer until I know that I can think about a family. This is 4 years later. We still haven't done anything with that information really. But I just was like, no, I think at the time I was only still in my 20s and was just like, cancer treatment just screams, oh, like, no, this, this is terrifying and whatever. So I said, no, like, I want to be able to know that that's an option down the line. And we actually had to go in and really fight for it. Only that she still is my oncologist to this day. Like, that's what she said. Like, I'm here for the long haul. She's really lovely, Dr. Harney in Belfast. But she called us in and said, look, I was actually bringing you up here to tell you, like, that's not an option. It's not possible. This is too aggressive and your body's going to go through enough. So, like, we can't actually do anything about fertility treatment. She's like, Tara, now that I have met you in person and I can hear your absolute, like, fight and passion, like, let's go, girl. Like, basically, that's what she said. And yeah, within like the week or so, she had me referred to the fertility clinic. Again, another hurdle. We went in there, the two of us, like, obviously we're very much like a team the whole way through it. Stephen just came to all my appointments. He was there for me. She said, no, I want you to go off out, have a coffee and have a big hard think about this because this is really grueling enough. And I'm sorry. And she looked at Stephen and was like, I'm sorry, but to be honest, the prognosis, even taking the treatment. So why would you bother putting yourself through this?
She said that.
She said that. I know still to this day, I'm like, I really still need to put a big complaint in about that. But that still bugs me because here I am, like I now am 4 years on and I am actually feeling so much better than probably even a year or two before the diagnosis, with like headaches and everything, the symptoms I was having beforehand. Like I actually am probably more able now to have a family, to have children than I was then. So that was a big, massive block in the road, but we fought and we got it. And I have 4 little eggs in Belfast clinic.
So, I mean, Stephen, how did you feel about this conversation? Because again, here you guys are now. I don't know about, I mean, granted, I have friends and family in Ireland and my dad is very Irish. And so we have very strong Irish roots as well as strong Italian roots. But I know men in the US and men in the US, especially in their late 20s, early 30s, you start talking about babies and kids and families before a ring is even put on the finger. And most men will have a heart attack. So, here you are, you guys are in the thick of this massive altering life change. And then Tara's talking about, preserving eggs and, for the future and having kids, which is brilliant, by the way, and a very smart decision. And I'm glad you fought for it. But Stephen, what was going through your head? I mean, were you on board with all this? Were you a little panicky? Like, what were you feeling when this was happening?
Well, during all that, I suppose, whatever Tara wanted to do, like, I was happy to support her, but I was definitely mindful of the fact that what the doctors were telling us, and I'd read different studies and stuff as well, that I think the study actually was for glioblastoma patients, and it was about the delay post-surgery until they started treatment.
Yeah.
And even like a 1 week delay could cause like up to 50% extra growth in the tumor, or like regrowth.
Yeah.
If the tumor wasn't cut out. So that was definitely in my mind when all that was going on. So I understood where the doctors were coming from and trying to get us to go and do the treatment instead of doing the fertility treatment. But then just because Tara she wasn't taking no for an answer anyway, so I was definitely, whatever she wanted to do, I was there to support her. But I was quite young at the time as well, so I suppose I wasn't really even thinking about families or nothing like that. So it was all a bit mad for me as well. I'd never even had a girlfriend before this point as well. So
You realize you just said that to a global audience, right?
yeah.
He knew I was the one when he first laid eyes on me, Shannon.
Boy, Stephen, you are we need to clone you. We need to clone you and make you available to a lot of people. That is, wow, it just blows my mind. I mean, the commitment that you guys have to each other and your love for each other, and the story is just, I just have no words for it. It takes a very strong and independently minded and secure individual to see things the way that you did. And Matt is right. It was a crazy, crazy time period for you guys. I mean, Tara, let's go back to you. I mean, you got the infertility, you went through all the infertility treatment or through the process, and you preserved eggs, and now you're starting your standard of care for the glioblastoma. How was that process for you?
I just went along, I went through the motions to start with, but you go to the radiotherapy, and I do feel like obviously the doctors probably have not even experienced it themselves, and like how it actually feels and the pain of it, or just even I suppose the emotional pain of it and as well. So they can't prepare you for it. I think they had originally, what the neurologist had originally said to me was, you'll go for some radiotherapy and, then we'll see. I don't think she wanted to mention chemotherapy, cancer treatment, whatever to start with. But the radiotherapy was the worst thing it was like torture, absolute torture, because your head, you've just had craniotomy is what it's called, the brain surgery. And what he actually said to me, not my amazing surgeon, but the guy that, rolled me in the bed and was putting me off to sleep. And remember, because it was COVID, I wasn't allowed one visitor, not one person was allowed to. Stephen walked me up to the door of the ward and had to say goodbye there. Like, he wasn't allowed into the ward, into my room, into anything. And I didn't see anybody then until my dad collected me a few days later. And that was down at the front outside. It wasn't even in the hospital or anything. So yeah, I got rolled in the next morning for the surgery, and the big burly man that took me in, he said to me, now don't worry, it's all very clean and safe, and what we'll do is we'll cut out a little jigsaw piece from your skull, set it right here, keep it really sterile and really clean, and then we'll just put that back in like a jigsaw piece after the work.
My God.
And you're like, what? And that's me just going off to sleep. So yeah, I swear, the trauma, the absolute images I was having for, I'd say weeks, if not months after. Couldn't really go off to sleep or like close my eyes without visioning and seeing things that I didn't expect. I'd never even been to hospital for anything small, or like not major before that. So yeah, it was just a lot that I you couldn't possibly plan for. But then with the radiotherapy, like your head is already swollen, like the pain feels like it's throbbing around the area that you've had the surgery and, that the tumor was in. And then you have to go and get this big mask clasped onto your face and bolt it down for 30 sessions in a row. And you're just like, well, I think about maybe 4 weeks into that, I was just like, I am done. I cannot keep doing this. Like, Stephen was carrying me into the hospital and stuff. He actually was reminding me not long ago that we were always so late because I was just like refusing to go or to get up off the sofa. I was just like, no, I don't want to go. And he's like, I know, but we have to. Come on, like bribing me nearly. We'll go for a nice lolly after, like. Oh, it's so crazy because I was nearly a 30-year-old woman, but I completely regressed back to just like, no, like leave me alone. I don't want to do it. It was awful. Yeah. And that was the radiotherapy. Then sure, you only get like 10 days or so in between, and then you start on your chemotherapy journey, and then that's all the nausea, and you just can't eat anything. I lost so much weight, just felt sick every day it ended up being about 7 months that I was on it because I kept getting infections, and then they couldn't continue with treatment and we'd have to delay, and it was just a whole journey that I hope that not many people that are listening have to go through. It's just horrendous.
It is a really, really long journey, and it's tedious. there's wear and tear. I think that it's a brutal process. Anytime somebody has to go through chemo and radiation, it just takes a toll. I mean, it takes a toll on the body because you're introducing these very heavy chemicals into the body in order to combat a disease that's in the body. But it's also a testament to what our bodies can endure and what our bodies can handle. As brutal as it is a testament to how much we truly can heal and our bodies can heal themselves when given the opportunity. During this time, like, you're going through all this and you mentioned that, Stephen, really prodded and pushed to get you to go into treatment and to radiation and was there for you during the chemo. Stephen, let me start with you. How did the two of you lean on each other during all that? What did you guys do to lean on each other to continue being strong for each other?
I tried to just support her. I tried to support Tara whatever way I could, but then there was times as well you sort of have to take a step back because it become too much as well. And I always sort of think the people closest to, well, in our case anyway, like the caregiver sort of becomes a bit of a punching bag.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of anger and stuff that comes out, and then we try to go vegetarian and stuff at certain points just because we read different things that it might be a bit healthier and could help enhance the effects of treatment or whatever. But then Tara wasn't happy with some of my cooking at different stages. I wasn't a great cook. There was like a black bean burger you didn't really like at one stage.
Even the smell of it, I was like, why are you doing this to me?
But apart from that, like, because it was just the start of the lockdown, there was so many people that, well, Tara knew, or Tara's brother who'd been out in Australia, like he was just home, and a few of Tara's friends that were living out in Australia, they'd all come home at the one time. So sort of like everyone that Tara knew was home at the one time. And a lot of people weren't working because it was just the very first initial lockdown. So people were basically getting paid to sit at home.
Yeah.
So like everyone was free to sort of call over and help. And even if it was just a few hours here and there, cheer Tara up. And it let me go off and go for a walk in the countryside or whatever, just clear my head. And it all really worked well. Tara's neighbours actually, they had a holiday home, which is right beside her house. They gave us that house for a year, free of charge.
Wow.
Just told us to live in that, so we had our own space and everything. So it was really everyone around us, and my parents included. Like,
yeah,
they give me the use of their car. Like I was just home from Canada, didn't have anything to drive, and they just gave me their car and said, "Just don't worry about it. Just use that as much as you want." There's so many people that helped out, which helped us.
It's so vital and so important to have that kind of support and that kind of. And not just for, at least in my experience and from others that I've talked to, everybody focuses so much on the patient and then people forget about the caregiver. The caregiver, the primary partner, you endure a lot. You go through a lot. That can make it very, very difficult. And sometimes, the friends and the family and the community support goes all to the patient and people forget, hey, I'm here too. I could really use some help. So to have that emotional support and to be able to allow you to go off and decompress and do what you need to do is vital. And, we've said it, you guys have mentioned it a few times and we can't stress it enough. We really need to point out that when this all started, when you got diagnosed and this journey started, it was literally as the entire world was shutting down due to a pandemic that our generation has not seen. To add insult to injury on, what is already a difficult situation, you guys, had to deal with another loss of familiarity because of the pandemic.
In a way, I actually think it sort of helped us because Tara is such an outgoing social person. If she was lying in bed during the summer when all of her friends were at weddings and concerts and stuff, like she would have been even more depressed. So I think that it definitely helped you.
Okay.
Everyone was just at home anyway.
Yeah, it helped with your anxiety and people's anxiety that I wasn't going to get sick from being around too many people and stuff. But even all these cancer services like Macmillan and everything, like they all closed down. So I do feel like I was a bit cheated in that way. Like I would have loved to have got along to, groups with people that were going through the same thing or similar thing. And even Stephen could have availed of carers as well, doing stuff like that. But all that was completely stopped because of the lockdown, which in hindsight, I just think it was so wrong.
You didn't have access to support services that could have been really vital because of the pandemic, because of the lockdown.
No, I did. I went twice, but that was kind of near the end of the treatment, so it was probably not the time that I really, really needed it. But when they started opening up a little bit, I got 2 aromatherapy sessions with Macmillan. It's a really good charity here. We've just signed up and we're fundraising for the Macmillan, what's it called? The Great Mighty Hike.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah. So yeah, the 2 of us are going to do it. I do know that probably from halfway, Stephen will be piggybacking me. Like I'll probably not be able to do the whole thing, but yeah, like that we're going to do it. I'm going to push myself, and we're going to try and raise as much money as we can. Because yeah, in other ways, Macmillan, they were able to help me with the whole finances, and they just took control. Didn't have to annoy anybody in the family or whatever. They just got me sorted with benefits and stuff like that as well. So that was really amazing.
Let's fast forward a little bit. You get through treatment, things start to quiet down with the pandemic, and restrictions start to loosen a little bit. Since finishing all of this, I mean, we can't stress enough. Here you are, 4.5 years in, and you are thriving, strong, and have your clarity and your cognition, and you're doing all of this amazing stuff. How do you see your progress since this journey started? And what do you find helps you with continuing to heal and stave off a recurrence or a hiccup?
I've actually got my MRI date in. It's so crazy how time is flying. You're like, what? Another 6 months is gone, because I go every 6 months. They're so good and diligent. Like, they've never missed getting me my scans and whatever. And I do every time, even though I feel well, even though I have no part of me believes that it's growing back or anything. See, the week before, and especially the couple of days and stuff before the scan, oh my days, I'm like, my headaches are awful. Is it back? What's going on? But I now know better than to like go straight into panic mode. And I think it's actually like the body, it has that big scar there. It remembers, and it's probably just all very much a mental thing.
Mhm.
But so I found holistic therapies alongside the medical treatment. Unfortunately, not early enough, but I did find them 2 months into the chemo. And that was when I was saying before at the start, I was constantly not able to get the treatment. Oh, you'll have to come back next week and hope that your infection markers are better, like you're not well enough right now and whatever. So the first 2 months was like not good, and that was the case. And that was just really, can you just imagine, like I was in such a dark place. I
Mhm.
was definitely in depths of depression, didn't want to see anybody, didn't want to do anything, hated the way I looked, hated, I had no hair. I was so like stick thin. I would have joked, but not really. I would have been joking through tears. I looked like Gollum from the
Oh.
Lord of the Rings. Like
Aw.
literally, that's just what I felt like.
Yeah.
And I also, that whole thing of like me and Stephen were still very new, and I was like starting to be like, you don't deserve this. Like, please leave me alone. Like, just go away from me, whatever. Probably in a really, like, in the darkest place you can get to, like rock bottom, where I was just like, if I go, I go. And I think it's probably better for everybody. And that was coming into like the September of 2020. And then it was probably maybe the start of October. Around then, I went for reflexology with Jenny Morris. She is local in Ballycastle, where I'm from. I don't think I'd ever had reflexology before. I didn't really know much about holistic therapies or the benefits of them. Like, we're not taught this stuff in school. Like, I feel like we should be. And so I just went along because somebody said it might help with nausea. And actually, on her bed, I literally broke down crying, shared far too much. And she was so gentle and lovely and told me all about like energy in the body and, your energy field around you, and little tips about getting outdoors. Because it was still, the sun was, it was like the kind of autumn sun. It was still very much there. She was like, get outdoors if you can in the morning, on your bare feet especially, and just like imagine bringing in some earthly energy and stuff like that. Well, Shannon, I went on a mad journey after that. Like, I started feeling there was something to look forward to, so something to dive into, something to learn about, something to occupy me. And yeah, so now I've actually went and got myself certified in aromatherapy, nutritional therapy. Their latest one is emotional freedom technique, the tapping on your meridians. And I just have to believe that going on this journey has definitely been a reason why I'm still here. It has to have been part of the reason of how I've, just even felt positive enough to keep going. Another thing that we actually started doing quite early into it, because otherwise I don't know how we could have stuck it out and how we could have stayed together. And I don't even know who told us to do this, but somebody said about changing your mindset, being grateful, gratefulness. You can't feel negative and the whole, what would you say, hate and negativity if you're thinking gratefully and positive. So we started at nighttime in bed trying to say, right, what are we grateful for today? And honestly, some days there wouldn't be, you couldn't think of anything. You'd be saying for 5 minutes, today was such a crap day. I don't know. But there's always something, we could always then think of something. And when you start it, then you could ream off loads, oh, okay, well, that person brought this food to us. That person offered us their home. This person brought us flowers. There was always things. And that's when it all changed. I just changed my mindset. And sometimes life is harder than others. And you feel like, why us? Why me? But then, you can pull yourself out of that and think, you know what? We're actually not the worst off in the world. There's so much worse things going on. And I think that's just what gets us through. We know we have each other and not everybody does.
Yeah, that is such a strong mindset to have. And it takes a lot of courage to pull yourself out of dark places, both of you, and to focus on gratitude. And you're absolutely right. You can't think negatively when you're focusing on what you're grateful for or what good things have come to you that day. It is very hard to think negatively when you're doing that. And the more you practice it, the stronger you're retraining the mind to see things, to see life in a different way. And I really do think that when we're put to the test the most and when we're pushed to the brink is when we really can shine.
Yeah.
That is the hope that we give to others that are in dark places, is that there is absolutely room to shine and to grow. The kind of love that you guys have for each other, that is a reminder. I mean, your story is a beautiful testament to the kind of love that is truly available out there in the world. Not everybody has it. Not everybody is blessed to know that kind of love, but it does exist and it is out there. I think it's a beautiful thing. You talk about essential oils and being trained in holistic practices. How do you feel essential oils has played into your healing process, both emotionally and physically? And, could you give maybe an example of a combination of essential oils that somebody could use to really distress or reduce anxiety in times of hardship?
So the essential oils was something I think a few people had mentioned to me, or maybe they had given me some, but then I went on a bit of a journey to check and see what was the most natural, the most powerful, potent, whatever. And so, of course, I came across doTERRA, and it is a global brand. And as soon as I just even opening the first bottle, the smell and fragrance, and it just was different to any other type I'd ever had. And I'd went through loads of different types of essential oils and brands and whatever, but this is now I'll be coming up on probably 4 years that now I've been using them, and I'm just obsessed with them. I now make everything in the home using my essential oils, to clean our kitchen, the bathroom, sprays for the bedroom, in my body, on my body. Every single morning I'll only eat and drink something after I've already had my hot water and doTERRA lemon. I suppose for emotions and for what I really needed at the time of going through a difficult time was the tree oils. So there's a blend called Balance, and it's got a few of the tree oils. Even if you're stuck in your bed, really not well, really, depressed in a really bad way, anxious, them oils can make you feel like if you closed your eyes and you just smelt it literally and put it, that goes right up in obviously the nose is connected right up into the brain. And it literally makes me feel like I'm standing in a forest, or like it makes you feel like instantly more peaceful or calm. For pain, the whole time then I was going up for the last of my treatments, because I only discovered them halfway through the chemo. I needed the peppermint for the nausea and just to dab onto my temples where, I was getting swollen and sore heads. Do you know what it is? It's the empowerment that it gives you. That was whenever I started on the essential oils, I felt like I was doing something for myself and I wasn't just having to listen to the doctors. And that's whenever I was able to kind of get over the whole anger and being like having regret. Should I even have taken all that treatment? Could I have tried other things? I use the essential oils very much to know that, okay, I'm doing something for me. And then now I actually share them in my local community. It started just with friends and family. And now I'd have like random people messaging me on my socials all the time for different oils and stuff. And just at the minute, the local mental health practice, that I had to use myself. There, in the summer, people don't talk enough about that. Like after an illness or after a big life change, then okay, you get through, go through the motions, and then what? That was whenever I started actually having seriously bad like mental health and stuff. So Louise down in there, she has asked me to do up little leaflets, and she's going to promote, say to them, look, if you want to, you can go and contact Tara and she will make you up essential oils or talk to you about her journey and stuff. So it's just all these little links that have happened, obviously because of the journey I've went on.
It's really empowering. And, it's interesting that you talk about the essential oils and just some of the other steps you were taking that helped you feel like you were taking back some control.
Yeah.
And I think that to anybody that's going through any type of cancer journey or caregiving journey or a really difficult path that they weren't expecting, I think that is the scariest. That's when our anxiety and our fears really are heightened because we don't have control and we can't see down the road and we can't predict what's going to happen. It is vital. It's important to take steps to do things that make us feel empowered and to be able to control even just little things throughout the day that help us feel like we have the strength to navigate whatever's going to come, even when we don't know what's going to come. I think that that's really important that you stress that, because that is something that everybody can do in times of stress and hardship. This is such an amazing journey that you guys are on, and you guys are doing extremely well. And you've got all of these certifications and classes and stuff that you're doing. Stephen, I want to turn to you for a second, because as you guys are navigating this and you guys are building your life around the diagnosis and kind of cutting a path through it, what's one word that you would use to describe Tara?
She asked me a few of these questions last night that you sent over, and I'd thought of a word, but now I don't think I'm going to say it. I'll say a different word.
Why? Tell us both.
I'll tell you both. The word I thought of first was mad. Because, well, she is sort of mad anyway. But
Quirky.
No, but the word I'll use is resilient. She's unbelievably resilient, and so is everyone in her family. I don't think I've ever met a family that's gone through as much sort of hardship and stuff that they deal with on a daily basis. With her own mum having MS, and then her uncle, he was also in a wheelchair, which Tara was growing up with him in the house too. Then obviously with Tara as well, like the family's been through so much, and Tara herself, and it just is unbelievable resilience to come through everything that they have come through, and they're still smiling every day, and if you met them in the town in Ballycastle or whatever, they'd be the happiest people. You wouldn't know anything's going on.
Oh, I love that. Sometimes I think and I wonder if, regardless of whether people have a strong faith base or not, or what they believe in, in the universe, sometimes I feel like it's those types of people like Tara's family and, and my family and others out there. We're stronger than we even realize. And that's why we're put through some of the trials that we're put through, because somebody out there knows that we are resilient and we are strong and we will be left standing at the end of it. It shows others what is possible. And I think that that is extremely powerful. Tara, what is one word you would use to describe Stephen?
Well, he's my rock. But I suppose like a word, descriptive word like supportive Yeah, he just is my rock. Like I would not, I know I wouldn't, and I know that might be people might be like, yeah, right. But if I didn't have him, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have even had the will to want to be here. And he just pushes me all the time. Like I was saying about, if we do go for our walks and hikes and things, he definitely had me doing things I was not ready for, that I was definitely not fit enough for. But he's like, he always believes in me, like always, always like, yeah, you can. And if you can't, I'll just carry you, and like, it's no problem. Like nothing's a bother to him. Nothing is too much for him to handle, really, which isn't really fair on him. Like he is just so strong and just so like, in every sense of the way, physically and emotionally. But I suppose that is why, like he is, yeah, he's just my rock. I can just lean on him for anything, really.
I think it's, especially hearing your stories and you and I having talked previously and knowing what I do know about you two, I feel like there is just this tether between the two of you. There is this soulful tether that just Stephen was brought into your life at the exact right time
Yeah.
to be part of this journey with you. It's just almost like the two, like your journeys, your story was written in the stars, that it was just supposed to be this way. It is the most beautiful thing to see because it really is a love that transcends. It goes beyond just being committed to each other. There is just something uniquely bonded between the two of you. And I do think that that is a huge testament to so much of how the two of you are, and I think it speaks volumes. So it is an honor to see that. It is very humbling to witness how the two of you are together. What's next for the two of you? What are you guys looking forward to?
Yeah, for me, sharing the hope. I've just started my own little, I would say, passion business, Life Behind the Rainbow. And so, as you know, our biggest favorite thing to do together is travel. We love traveling, we love adventures, we love exploring. But this is like the first time ever, ever, ever since we even first met that we don't have anything planned. We have no trips planned. And I'm really excited to try and go on this little venture of business and share my story, but share my hope and share to others. Like, if I can do it, so can you. So for me personally, that's what it is. And then Stephen.
Yeah, I don't really know, to be honest. I was never a person that would, people ask me, what's your 5-year plan, a 3-year plan, or whatever. I never knew, 'cause I never really thought about it. And still now, like, I'm not even that worried about what's going to happen in the future, because as long as everything's okay now and Tara's doing well, I think what we learned during the whole course of her treatment and her surgery and everything is not to worry too much about the future, like just enjoy what you're doing at the minute.
Yeah.
One thing I'd definitely like to do in the future is just in terms of my own career or whatever. I love the outdoors and love the environment and stuff, so I'd like to transition sort of into that line of work if I can. That'd be my sort of big goal, I think. But
I love that.
other than that, it's just enjoy what I'm doing at the minute and just take every day as it comes.
And you can help me set up a forest school. That would be my big dream down the line.
I would love that. If you do that, I am there. I am coming over.
Oh, it's the big, that would be the end goal. I'm going to start small with the, individuals and have people up to my little cabin. And then, yeah, that would be the end goal, is actually create a little forest space like that is mine and have people up and we just breathe everything all in and just enjoy each other's company and connect again the way that, the way that our ancestors used to do. Like, that's what we're missing now. And I think the pandemic taught us anything, it's that we need to get back to that way of our old culture, the music, the just sitting around, like having a cup of tea or a beer or whatever together, and watching the sun going down, and just, yeah, so that's what we'll do. And of course a few babies running about too.
I was gonna ask, and then I said, well, after Stephen just said what he said, maybe I shouldn't ask that question.
No, we've kind of agreed. I am a little bit older than him, so we have agreed, like, we'll start definitely having proper talks about that, like probably this time next year. So
I think that that's beautiful. And honestly, I mean, the focus on everything you just said resonates so much with me, because I couldn't agree more. Nature is something that is embedded deep inside me. And I mean, I would go for hikes by myself when Mike was sick, because that was the only thing that gave me balance and made me feel at ease and calmed the anxiety. There's something about, I would even touch some of the trees, like as I walked by, just to feel like I was connecting to the earth. there is something really powerful in that and very healing in that. And I think you're right. I think that we have to not forget what we learned during the pandemic and find a way to reconnect with each other as communities, be supportive of each other, get back to our roots, like you were saying, ancestrally. And you look at these smaller communities in Italy and in Greece and in, remote areas of Ireland, and people are living longer. They're living, they're seeing centenarians, they're seeing individuals that are living to over 100 years old. Well, why is that? Well, there is a ton of research that shows that they connect with each other. They take stillness. There's still at certain points of the day, they sit and they watch the sunset. They are present in the moment that's in front of them, and they help each other. They volunteer. They're there for each other. They talk to each other on things other than devices. It says a lot, and there's a lot of research to back that up. So I love that that you focus on that, and that both of you guys are very into that kind of lifestyle. And it's hard not to be. I mean, Ireland, I've been to Ireland a few times, and it is just the most beautiful country. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous country. The green moss and the trees and just the way that life is over there, it's a beautiful place. It has a very special place in my heart. So, I mean, I'm a little envious that you guys get to have that.
There's always another hike, another place that we have to go visit and stuff. Like, only about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we discovered a new place that's not even that far from where I live, Castle Rock, and it was beautiful, wasn't it? Like, that is what our favorite pastime is, just going and exploring. I love that you mentioned about when you're on your hikes, like touching the trees. That's something I do all the time, and Stephen's there like, come on, what are you playing at? Like, he just doesn't see it that way. He's just like, stop being a weirdo. But I am happy to be a weirdo, and I'm delighted to hear you are too.
I am.
So actually, he's probably the weirdo because you're the one not doing it. That's you getting grounded through your hands.
No, that's just not for me.
It's just not for him, he said.
I would be surprised if he actually said anything otherwise. It's not something I've actually mentioned before on this show. So yeah, it is something for me. Like, I feel like the trees, they're living.